Okay, this is part 3 of the lecture. As you can tell, I'm in the airport. Hopefully I'll get this done fairly quickly. This is Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Now this was actually figured out, Kepler was around before Isaac Newton, so he actually figured out laws of planetary motion, and he did it based on data analysis. He acquired the data from his mentor, Tycho Brahe, Tycho Brahe was quite a character. He had a gold nose because he lost his nose in a sword fight. He was having a sword fight duel in London about a maths equation with another mathematician. Anyway, he had his nose chopped off, so he had a gold nose. So he became an astronomer. That way he didn't have to hang out with people at night time. Anyway, Kepler was his research assistant, and then when Tycho Brahe died, Kepler plotted lots of graphs and did all the number crunching of the data and came up with his 3 laws of motion. And then Isaac Newton, some time later, figured out the causes of them. So the first law is quite straightforward. The orbits themselves are not circular, they're elliptical. Okay? So they follow this ellipse pattern. These really tight ellipses are only for comets. Planetary orbits are so close to circular you'd have a hard time deciding whether it's circular or not. Now the Earth's closest point of approach to the Sun is actually in January, so this does not cause the seasons. The seasons are caused by the tilt of the Earth's axis. The second law involves the speed changes. He worked it out as equilibrium law. Essentially, the planets go slower the further away from the Sun they are, and faster here. And so they go faster as they're close to the Sun, and this is why it's got stronger gravity. Stronger gravity, so it shoots around and then slows down as it gets further out. And then the third law relates what we already mentioned in the previous section, which is t squared is proportional to, we'll keep it as r cubed. They're using a because it's average of this bit of the ellipse against this bit of the ellipse. And yeah, Isaac Newton eventually found out that his t squared is equal to 4 pi squared r cubed over gm. Okay? So he basically proved it. And this is all down to something called angular momentum, which we haven't met yet. So this is a computer simulation. I'll just exit out. So what we've got here, this is an elliptical orbit. If I run it, one second, let's turn the sound off. Okay. But notice how the planet is moving slower as it gets further away from the star, and as it gets closer to the star, it's like falling towards the star and speeds up and then slows down again. The difference between this and circular motion is the forces here, the gravity forces in the middle, are no longer perpendicular. So a component of this force is speeding up the planet as it goes round, and as it goes further away, it's like a component is dragging back on the planet and slowing it down. So that's the elliptical orbit for you. Now, to be fair, the Earth's orbit is so close to being circular that it's not really noticeable as an ellipse. But you can change the eccentricity. You can make the ellipse really interesting. So I'll play with this. You can see how d plus a, d1 plus d2 always add up to the same amount. you can actually do this with a piece of string and 2 drawing pins, thumbtacks, and make it right round. Ellipses are kind of cool. The mathematics of this is quite difficult, so we're not going to bother with the maths. The second law is kind of, we're going to come back to them and come back to angular momentum. The third law relates to the graphs. And I'll probably leave the simulation. You can play with it a bit. You can do different graph axes. It's radius cubed against r squared. We have to do different sun masses. And eventually you'll plot and get a straight line graph. Okay, so you can get a straight line graph for this. I'm wondering how to change the speed of the ellipse. Let's make it go slightly faster, make it more elliptical. Okay. Slows down, almost to a stop, and then speeds up as it falls down to the beginning again. So it's kind of cool. Okay, back to the presentation. So we can do data analysis on this. You can prove all this. Okay. For Kepler's third law, remember what it is. It's t squared is equal to 4 pi squared over gm r cubed. So what you can do, this is all based on the Earth's orbital radius. So let's take Jupiter, the king of the planets, right? We can do 4 pi squared over 6.67 times 10 to the minus 11 times the mass of the sun, which we worked out in a previous lecture, okay, times the radius of the orbit cubed, which is 5.2 times 150 times 10 to the 9, all cubed. And then you should find you get this. Now this is going to give you an answer in seconds. Okay, and you should find it is equal to 12 years in seconds when you work out the square root of that. You have to take my word for it. The other thing you can do is you can put all this into an Excel spreadsheet and plot a graph of it. And if you plot a graph of r cubed against t squared, you should get a perfect straight line graph. Okay, and that's showing you that t squared is proportional to r cubed. I'm going to try and do that just for fun. So let's take this data. Put it into Excel. Now we want that to be on the y-axis, so let's cut that out and put it there. Now if we just plot the raw data, we're going to get a curve. Okay, so that's a curve. Let's have a quick look at it. Trend line, power. So it's going to form a curve. This is orbital radius here. In astronomical units. this is going to be period in years, Earth years. Okay, but the point is, this graph is a curve, which isn't terribly helpful. Now, here's where we can go. Here's the magic of Excel, because it saves us doing all the maths, right? So I want to use this number to the power of 3. Gives me that. So this is going to be radius cubed. And then if I take this and drag it down, magic, does it all for me. And this is going to be period squared. And I'm going to make it that number squared. Drag it down. Ah, magic. Spreadsheets are awesome. Let's plot the graph of this. And with any degree of luck, it should be a straight line. And look at that, Kepler was right. Hundreds of years later, Kepler was right. At the trend line. There it is. Kepler's. And this is showing you that the square of the period is proportional to the cube of the radius of the orbit. And a bit about how to plot graphs at the same time. So this is radius cubed. So that is a u cubed. Find the vertical axis. This is period squared, and that's in years squared, square years. Okay. And the title of this graph. Kepler's third law of planetary motion. So it's kind of cool. Kepler figured this out hundreds of years ago. Actually, before Isaac Newton figured it out. Isaac Newton explained where it came from and the reasoning behind it. Okay, don't need to say that because you guys all got it. And there's one final thing I want to talk about. Why do astronauts float in space? So this is an Italian astronaut. She's floating inside the space station. She's floating. And there's countless YouTube videos on it, like what does water do in space. They're really cool because the water forms a sphere. But when you burn candles, they form spherical burn flames. It's kind of cool. She's moving at 28,000 kilometers an hour and falling towards the Earth, but she's falling towards the Earth and missing the Earth at the same time. The space station's falling as well. What's happening is the space station's falling towards the Earth and missing, and she is falling at exactly the same rate. So it looks like there's no gravity, but that's just an illusion. Gravity is still there. Gravity is pulling her around in orbit around the Earth. But because she's falling inside a thing that's also falling, she appears to be weightless. Okay, and that's really cool. You can fake it on Earth. What you just need to do is go up in an elevator, cut the cable, the elevator falls, you fall, you're both falling at the same rate, and you're weightless, you'll float for about a second and a half, and then you're dead. It's possible to do it in an aeroplane as well. And it's an aeroplane called the Vomit Comet. I will draw it here. So what the aeroplane does, the aeroplane climbs up into the sky, high up in the sky, so this is the aeroplane, like this. Hopefully my aeroplane today will not be doing this. And then it falls, but it doesn't fall straight down because everybody's going to die, and that's not good. What it does is it falls in a parabola, just like the ones you did in your physics classes. And this point here, the astronauts experience weightlessness. Okay, oops, that went a bit wrong. Weightlessness. And what's happening is the astronauts are free. It's going constant velocity that way, but accelerating downwards at 9.81 meters per second squared. So the people inside the aeroplane are falling at the same rate as the aeroplane's falling. And they've got constant speed anyway because of law of inertia. And that's going. And you can YouTube this. It's called the Vomit Comet. And it's an old aeroplane they've taken all the seats out, and they do this. They do it to train astronauts. Also, the weightless scenes in Apollo 13 movie. So the Apollo 13 movie was done inside the Vomit Comet. So what they did was they built the sets of the spaceships inside the aeroplane, and then they faked the dives to make the astronauts float around. Obviously made the movie quite expensive, but it made millions and billions of dollars, so it worked as profit. And that's why, but this only lasts like about 30 seconds. So the action could only last 30 seconds at a time, and then cut it and cut it and cut it and splice it together. Highly recommend seeing this movie, by the way, if you're interested in space travel. This was about a very famous accident that happened in the 1970s. Okay, I'm going to finish up here. I'll be doing office hours. I'll be back on Ireland on Thursday, so contact me for office hours anytime, and also over the midterm break, and I'll be happy to help. Okay, I will set an assignment for this over the next few days, and I'll email it to you as well so you don't forget. Okie dokie, have fun, and get nerdy about space, because space is cool.